Then we're here for the information session. Let's begin with the karakia. The Pātaka, thank you very much. Right, let's get into it. We've got Tim and Kylie going to talk to us today about water. Thanks for coming around again. Good to see you.
So my name is Tim. I've been in council for a couple of years and taken over the aircraft Atlas project. Kylie obviously has quite a long history with the NPF, so is that right? So the purpose of the briefing is to provide a general update to the world status of the project, to discuss the hearing process, application, to discuss the proposed national wastewater environment performance standards, which have recently been issued for discussion, and to provide an update on activities that are currently underway. So those of you not familiar with the project, I'm assuming it's well understood. Obviously, we've got technique on the south eastern side. So bottom, the main view of the project is to remove the site. Over the years, council has investigated a number of different options for alternative disposal areas and different locations. As we work our way up on the right hand side, we've got the concept design has been developed with the terminal pump station. The boat park, so we'll be rotating a lot of infrastructure and public towards the north. Carry on. It's all right. Carry on. Okay.
You can stand up if you want to.
Yes.
Yeah. Do that.
So up from the terminal pump station up to the treatment plant located at the Rākaihautū Road site, and that will be irrigating on Cameron Point site. And Robinson's Bay site. So over the last 12 months, there's been some development of these sites with preparation for the irrigation project. So particularly on the last site, the Robinson's Bay site, there's been some trees planted, some fencing, and more recently on Cameron Point site, some fencing. In mid-2023, the wastewater treatment plant opened. The ban behind the treatment plant was identified that it's stopping, and the treatment plant site quite a substantial to make that safe. Continued operation. Both the Takaniki site, and the Bayshore site, resource consensus lapsed in 2030 and 2031, respectively. And it was considered appropriate to go ahead and joining treatment plants both at the So this would also involve pumping from the Bayshore through to the site, and having the return pipe that goes back to the Bayshore for irrigation. As you can see, the council also operates PKFA and minority wastewater schemes.
questions on that? General. Dive into the legal bits. Just exciting.
So I have a question. So the main reason you decided to cancel the site from merge to Oshel with Ekra is because of the landslip. Yeah, no other issues there in terms of irrigation that's already happening.
There is no irrigation happening there at the moment, but
Back a slide, sorry.
Excellent.
100% of the cost and extent of remediating the hillside, that's not the rockwool behind the quarry, it's the hillside above rockwool. The rockwool's actually bad, so everything else sliding down. So we're into a big terrace and pin the hillside above, trying to stabilise it. Cost of that. Yeah, so decision was combining the two sites is a better outcome.
So in terms of cost savings, it was a good decision to merge both.
Yeah.
Do you know the figures?
We provide them to you, top of my head apparently, but it's cheaper to.
Yeah, thank you.
And additionally, sorry, I didn't mention, but the actual most of the treatment plant currently looks like it's too hard.
Yeah,
Sorry, to the harbour.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the same as so it's a short discharge.
No,
Thank you.
any other questions before we move on?
Okay, so the Atlas scheme resource consent application was made in May 2023. So we're almost come out to the 2-year anniversary of when the application was made. Notification process last year and the hearing process has been delayed through since the events. The resource consent hearing is currently paused due to the Commissioner's questions, a number of questions, and in particular question around the need for any other discharge consents. And the other discharge consents in particular that have been discussed are the treated water release. So when the storage at irrigation site, obviously we have limitations on how much treated wastewater can be irrigated per day. Where it needs to look at assessing irrigation very prolonged and significant rainfall events. We're looking at the ability of the to take water. So should that be a significant period of time, scheme may or will need the ability to release treated wastewater. And we'll talk further about that. Around the late February, so there's a piece of legislation coming out, legislation, and this one's called the Local Water Services Act, and it's going to cover a number of things. Number one, which has been in the news a lot, is the restructuring of how councils deliver their water services. So we're going to create a separate council-controlled organisation. Are we going to go in cahoots with our neighbouring councils? Are we going to keep on operating internal to council? There's a lot of discussion around that and various options. And consultations open on that yet? Not. Council on yes. Now, there's also a wealth of other parts in that bill that's going to go to full Parliament probably in August or September, one of which being that they want to introduce national standards for wastewater discharges. So rather than every
regional council coming up with their own consent conditions. The intent is to move to a national system where you've got equality to discharge to harbours, to ocean, to land, to river, to stream. It's about 7 or so receiving environments that have been listed, but each they're going to set out the treatment requirement, and it's going to be nationally the same everywhere. The proposal is then to make those standards basically of limited discretion to the consenting authority like ECAN. So basically, they have to issue a consent if the application says the applicant can meet the treatment requirement. So this may be total solids or coliforms or nitrogen or phosphorus, whatever, provided you stay within that sort of box of what's going to be permitted. The law says you have to get a consent for it. So that will remove public notification, for instance, and councils can't, councils issuing consents can't easily tinker with the conditions. They've got quite a tight band working. So we'll talk about it more, but that's quite key for future consent applications, that if council apply for anything in the future, potentially that could include the treated or untreated discharge to harbour, that may fall into that new legislation to sort of have to follow the rails. So useful to inform you guys that this is coming. It's open to consultation at the moment, I believe, the central government, commission, if you wish, and voting is in late April. And it should go to Parliament to be read in August or September. So yeah, watch this space.
So it will depend on what the standards they come up with. So
It's like
what's allowed and what's not.
yeah.
Okay, I'm still here. Sorry.
So,
Yeah, I know. I take my hat off to you. You're a very resilient man. This changes. We get stuff come to us, and I've been on this for now over 5 years, and we agreed like, oh, this year possible reuse possibilities, people buy all that stuff, double passing through the system. Yep, that was great. Boom. And now the goalposts keep changing. So do you see the being possibility that it go to the harbour at a lesser treated condition? Like, I sat in a hearing and agreed that it should go to the sea, based on the fact that it was going to be virtually drinkable. So all of a sudden, do you think this could open up a door for a lot more contaminants to go in the harbour if it does ever go into the sea?
Probably a couple of answers to that. The harbour and the sea are going to be different under the proposed legislation. And again, it's only proposed, I don't know idea what they're actually going to vote on product will look like. But the discussion documents that have come out is if it goes to open ocean, then you almost don't need to treat it. If it's going into the harbour, it's pretty much the treatment quality that we propose in our current application to land. If it goes onto land, it's pretty much the treatment quality we propose. We're not looking at waterways, I'm not really sure where that would land. But the current application as it stands pretty much hits either a harbour discharge or a land discharge. They're pretty much there. If we went to ocean, then the proposed quality is much higher than what.
So that is not a double passed option. We were looking at the double pass.
I'm not sure what you mean by a double pass.
You came to me, or we came to us, and said it was going to be passed through the system, so it's virtually bottled.
Yep.
Has that changed with the volume going through? No, it's still the same.
So it's what we're proposing matches the guidance we received from Taumata Away. Again, what they determined is the final treatment requirement. But it looks okay at the moment. The other important factor is this is for consent applications that are getting considered once the law is passed. So, you know, right now we'll just follow the usual consent process. If we've got a consent tomorrow, that will be locked in for the next 20 years, 30 years, however long that consent is. So the current process is the current process, and until the law changes, that's what we need to do. So the consent on the application on the table is unlikely to get impacted by the law unless it gets deferred or delayed until the end of the year, in which case, yeah, do you process it under the new law? We're not sure what happens at that point.
I think Tyrone and.
Yeah,
and others.
thank you. So I feel like I might be missing something here, but like a reduction in the environmental wastewater environmental performance standards. I mean, that sounds like bad news for everybody, right? Like it sounds like bad news for Whenua for a start, but also it doesn't feel like there's any positives in that for me. Is it, you know?
Is there a question there?
Are there any positives? Is it going to reduce the cost? For example.
Look, no doubt it will be cheaper. So if you ran a pipe out to the open ocean, and it's quite restrictive on, it's got to be at least 500 metres offshore in heavily dilute environments. You can't be behind the reef on an island. But yeah, if you're 500 metres out at sea and there's nothing to stop dilution, then the treatment quality is a lot lower. So for instance, the big outfall South Shore from the city, we could turn on half the treatment plant and we meet the requirement. Now, would we want to do that? Because there's a lot of other outcomes that
There's quite a
good question. But that's what the new law says you could do.
Right.
But I won't comment as to what Whenua think of that. That's
I can
that's what I could guess too.
I can hazard the opposite of what it would, but anyway.
I could suggest where they're going to go. And likewise, a lot of environmental groups are probably going to have some of the same out of those standards as well. But yeah, that's a little bit out of my action.
Thank you. So as we speak now, is there any work going on this project at the moment?
Oh, yes, there is. So we'll crack on and.
Well,
No.
do you want to ask about what he's talking about now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to clarify, to pipe out to the ocean, you're saying water storage?
No.
Ah.
No, I'm just saying it doesn't need to be treated to the level if you were discharging Sahara or.
So it's
Based on what's out for consultation and discussion.
yes.
So, yeah.
So Kylie, my understanding is that there is work happening on this project as we speak.
Yep.
Yeah. The source consent hearing has been paused, and council is expecting a change in the legislation, with the standards, national discharge standards. So why council is still proceeding on those costs, working on it? We're not
So
sure
costs on the project.
on the project.
Okay, the quick answer is the legislation is not yet passed, and the commissioners, they send us minutes of information thereafter or steering us to where they want to go with things. And our legal advisor, Brent Pizzi, asked that question, would it not be useful to defer until you've got the new legislation? It would appear that commissioners aren't that open to that option.
Okay.
Because there's no guarantee quite what the law will look like. It could still be in the exact same spot 6 months ago from now. It's not given.
Okay.
So the advice, the direction from the commissioners appears to be carry on, don't hang around for a law that may not come into being.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway,
Yeah, feel free to move on.
Carry on.
Yeah.
yeah.
So. The probably pass over here, because I suppose, coming into a 2011, council showed the results of Street Park. Quite a bit of treatment discharge. To the harbour.
So yeah, that's the council resolution to go to the old Coach Road location and Sons from Beach Road.
In 2014, discharge consent was opposed by the target. The wastewater treatment plant itself was consented, discharge. But on the basis of the commission's and really that was focused around the alternatives to discharge to land system. So in this period from 2015 to 2020, we investigate options. So 2020 was local government. So the irrigation to land in Robinson's Bay and Hamilton. And what's on the consultation document with reference to the need for a treated water release, the areas overflows, but that was indicatively said to occur once every 5 years in the Robinson's Bay area. In May 2023, the application for the resource consent to amend the Robinson's Bay and Hamilton Board was submitted to ETIM, so it was received 18 months worth of investigation prior to that. And the resource consent got from trade. The resource consent was based on around 3 years worth of flow data. That was the accurate flow data. And that was updated like 2023 with an additional 3 years of flow data, which is referred to as new modelling. So that new modelling was aligned to the roadshow that included the additional 3 years of flow data. To give a more full picture of the flows between the plant and the upper scheme to be Love Street. And as a result of that, there would be the identification that there would need to be treated water releases to the harbour and basically the storage and irrigation as it's needed. The hearing council, the resource consent hearing was underway, and commissioners have stated that they are finally balanced with they should wait for a resource consent application for water release. We've heard at the same time it's an application to land consent. And subsequently in February of this year, commissioners have stated that they can't resume, they can't actually physically get back together in May this year. But likely, the indicator that they're likely to determine that they won't restart the application assessment until the council has halfway discharge.
That last point, there's a bit of a tie up there and timing as well. Because about that point, council's going to be close to applying for the treated discharge to harbour anyway, so it's kind of easier just to give the commissioners what they want or ask for and so it's all on the table. It would appear though they would also like to see a discharge consent for untreated wastewater to the harbour. It's from the network overflow side. The applicant view has always been that that's already a separate issue between council and ECAN. We need to sort that out regardless of irrigation to land, because it already happens in Akaroa in 3 key locations. So we're a little bit disagreeing with the commissioners that, it's a fundamental part of the Apple scheme, but if the commissioners want to see that untreated discharge, well, application as well. Right. Don't get it say. And supervise what we do.
We've got a few questions around this, can we ask now, or should we wait?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, so go back to the previous slide, there's a few questions around that, Asif and
Yes,
Nigel?
Untreated discharge. There will be quite a significant, impact on the values of Peninsula here. So are you, is the council confident that they will get a consent on that? The current standards.
Nothing's a sure thing in life. It's a matter where council accepts mana whenua don't want it to happen, and we work quite hard for it not to happen, but at the same time, Onuku, Wairua, Rākaihautū and Tuaiwi recognise that those overflows do have to happen, and wishing they will go away isn't necessarily going to work. So they accept that in certain situations, it's not possible to avoid these overflows without massive costs or massive upkeep. So they're trying to treat a pragmatic line. Fundamentally, they've always been opposed, but they also recognise there is a need for this, and it's very, very hard to stop happening completely. So there's a degree of pragmatism in the thinking that we have back from them. And yeah, it's an area where it's not ideal, but parties are trying to find a way through.
Nigel, did you have a question?
I guess mine was slightly off that line a little bit, because as you know, Kylie, I was there at the hearings, and it seemed to me, and all the way through this, that the I&I has been a really huge part of the reason for the storage. It's because we were treating over 60% of that water system go through the systems, actually stormwater. Actually, the water. So you came here and we talked about that. You made a comment that we fixed all the traps on the downpipes in Akara, we would solve the problem. My question is, where does that I&I percentage sit now going forward, and how much would that really save?
We don't have statistics today, do we?
No.
I have to send you back the statistics. Some years we've had almost no I&I in recent history. Last year we were about 24%. However, a few things going on. We're working with, we pretty much surveyed every house in Akara for sources of dodgy downpipes or gully traps that flood, and working with about 25% of them.
Yeah, there's 30 houses that identified the recommendations, and then I think there was about 30%, so probably about 300 houses that where the traps are identified to be relatively low and needing further investigation.
So these are ones where heavy rain hits, floods private property. Not to say there aren't still issues in the public network, but these are things we've seen, we know we can fix. We know people can fix. So there's a scab off the rank. Will I get rid of the storage area? Certainly would reduce it if I make it go away completely. So legitimate place. The other challenge we're going to start meeting is sort of an equity problem where we're going to have to ask the question, how much more do we reduce I&I and grow it if it's moving into a much better state in the city? So percent I&I and grow is a good measure because the houses have only got a third of the occupancy of the city. So they've only got a third of the base flow, trying to grade us on percent I&I when if you measure it in litres per household connected to the network, Akarat start to become one of the best performing suburbs in Christchurch. So should we be seeking money in future LTPs to reduce Akarat's I even further, litres per household per year? Should we be putting that money into the eastern suburbs of Christchurch where they're in a swamp and they leak at a much higher rate? So it's going to become quite a complex thing to grapple. How far do we go? Especially when Christchurch is overflowing every 6 months to the Heathcote or Avon, and we're saying we can get Akarat once every 5 years. So there's a bit of a question here: how far do we push I Akarat? We've got a path that will work, does have a infrequent discharge harbour, which is ideal, but you're trying to balance how much further do we spend here with the detriment of the city, which is overflowing frequently. So it's going to be a great.
Well, we've been $20 million getting this far, not managed. Pretty sad.
All right, thank you, Nick.
Oh, yes, I've sort of changed my questions as part of this
That's
conversation, but just on the I&I thing, right, like, I mean, a third occupancy doesn't, I mean, a house will still collect stormwater and a rain event even when no one's living in it.
That's right.
Right, so I mean, the occupancy thing, hope to see. And it,
The statement is we need to start talking litres per connection, I&I, or litres per kilometre of pipe in the road, and stop using percent. It sort of skews things, and it doesn't give us an apples with apples for the rest of the city.
and so, I mean, the I&I thing is pretty, I mean, I appreciate your comments that, like, you know, how far do you take it, because there's some moves do struggle. But is there any way that we can, like, it doesn't feel like you've got a really good, strong sense of like, of what the improvement has been? Is it kind of, is it too hard to measure?
It's hard to.
And that's not a criticism.
No.
It's just more of an
I'm
observation.
trying to find a way to answer. It is hard to measure. It's hard to draw a correlation. I think correlation might be it. So we did this, we got this result. Instead, we sort of say we did these things, and we got these results. It's really hard to join the dots as to which of those half dozen things that you do here that got you the magic reduction over here. So
Okay. Yeah. So you know that you've done some stuff and there'll be a reduction. That's really hard to. And sorry, just a new topic. So just on the mana whenua, on the tikanga side of things that you sort of talked about before, and I'm not asking you to instantly become a tikanga expert, but you have a sense of it. So in terms of the pragmatic approach, obviously some things are non-negotiable. So to take a pragmatic, that's, you know, I mean, I don't think there's going to be too much pragmatism around that. Like, I mean, that's pretty black and white. Discharge into the harbour again. This is, but perhaps it's just an ocean outfall is more of a grey area.
No, to date, discharge to ocean hasn't been particularly well received, but the need for the infrequent discharge to harbour has been accepted, and to try and reduce storage or irrigation or that, Panuku's been, willing to give ground on that and use that discharge, pass the water through the wetland, put it in the harbour. And that sort of works. If we would try to pass the water through the wetland and run continuously to open ocean, then we need like a 6 or 8 hectare wetland. And there's not really many good spots for a 6 or 8 hectare wetland in the catchment that are already occupied by houses, farms, or golf courses. So there's sort of giving ground on that infrequent hard discharge to try and come up with a waterfall.
Oh, I see. I understand. So different. So it's infrequent discharge being by definition infrequent versus like full noise
24/7.
24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So there is a degree of pragmatism there, but, you know, how far the different parties can go. It's still alive.
Got another question here from Kathy before we move on to the next slide. We'll back up.
And I have one more question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine, that's fine, that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just after.
Yeah, it's not really a question about the the whole waste thing, but it was more about use less, waste less. So in terms from a resource efficiency point of view, what about its usage? If you were to say audit a small community to see how much is currently used and
Really glad you asked.
yeah, come on, resource efficiency. Have you now?
So we have lots of steps. In the last 5 months, since October, the team's been going through what we call them smart water meters on everyone's houses.
Yes.
It tells us pretty much the instantaneous flow everyone in Agro is using. And currently we're up to about 150 meters installed. The last couple of hundred always the hardest. Buried under asphalt, that's something weird. So what we're starting to get a picture of is what is the daily demand, and we've been able to identify some really cool stuff like there's just lots of water between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Because that's probably got a leak.
Yeah.
So those people just get a polite phone call saying, hey, we're doing a bit of water metering work, and you see that you use a lot of water between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. You've probably got a leak on the property somewhere. And then they tend to vanish in the next.
Mine was a bill. I didn't get a fare.
Then some of the commercial users you can kind of go to and the team go and have chats and what do you use water for, how are you using it. So it's a really neat tool that's allowed us to identify who's got leaks and high nighttime consumption, who's just using heaps worth of visit. So there was a can't remember if it was a cafe or bar. They had a chiller for the beer fridge or something, and to run that at lower cost, they ran tap water through the chiller and used the cold from the tap water to cool the beer and the drinks. Then just put the tap water down the drain. They use 2,000 litres a day. So it's been a really neat exercise to try and find these people, and it's also meant we can stop guessing or estimating the population on a given day. So on this day, this much water got used by the houses and the commercial users. So you've got a hard number, and there's a lot less estimation in how much I there was. So it's quite cool. It's just, yeah, as I say, it's in the first 6 months. But it's just starting to provide really useful information.
Data is always helpful because it just provides more clarity around what the issues are that we need to work on.
And it's been really great to just be able to rank those few properties rather than trying to send out a leaflet to the whole town or signboards or whatever. Just go straight to those individuals.
So Ryan, did you have more?
Yeah, just very quickly, sorry, because I got lost in my own thoughts there, presentation. I wasn't quite sure, I missed a bit, but just on the commission, are likely to determine they won't restart until applicant has lodged the harbour discharge applications. What's the time frame on that?
It's quite high.
I'm lodging the applications.
So in other words, like when is the commissioners, when are they going to restart?
We're targeting June.
But we've got to respond to the commissioners as applicant next week. Give them an update and then tell about when they want to restart.
Right, okay, so, okay.
So they've got
So
to
we have a clear steer.
probably after Easter we'll get back on.
We should probably think about wrapping up. We don't know if you've touched on, but I know you've got a couple more slides, so if you could, if you wanted to quickly go through those.
Cool, talked a lot about that.
So a lot of that has been happening as well, so. I suppose just some things that have been progressed as well. There is some more planting, or a lot more planting proposed. And point, so these are some of the trees that they planted last year. We, I don't know, we maybe just before, maybe the mills higher on. Yeah, it's other. Most events were based on seeds and were procured. At least 12 months ago, and what we had over this nice period.
Exciting.
I suppose for interesting, it's been an opportunity to update. This is the design assembly has been patient. They've undertaken a preliminary design based on the anticipated consent conditions. But they won't be progressing into detailed design until we actually know what the outcome of the consent is. But this fundamentally is just to have an idea of what the so it's the existing there's obviously a reasonable amount of to create the opportunity to build and this first slide over here, the slide maximising the size of what would become a weapon by the generation of the relative events. There's another slide there for the next one. So this is very much early days deals with basically some of the
So we're looking at
understanding
75 or 25 metre footprint.
something like that.
That's the process. So around the half a rugby pitch of deep stuff. Next slide.
I suppose this is the last slide that we've got, but some of the discussion points that are going to be coming up is what the freedom of release.
Yeah, I'm actually having, no, it's okay, because you're looking that way.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
actually having a little bit of struggle back in hearing, I agree, thank you.
What would a treated water release look like to Harbour? And at the moment, the preferred option for the consultation document was in Children's Bay adjacent to the. This is a photo showing, this is 2021, 2022 maybe, showing a significant rainfall event where there's large expansive surface flooding. And I think it's just quite useful to see in context the sort of events that would result in the treated water release. And we know that the pipeline may commence from the proposed current pump station sites where the marker is. But we're just looking at and seeking clarification for our technical express at PDP as to how far out the treated water release pipeline is extended into the harbour, both from the environment and from the environmental point of view. And that's trying to provide some level of indication
100, 200, 300 metres out into the whole river. Once we get probably into the 300 metre zone, we're starting to get it very, very expensive for release costs. So,
Expensive,
yeah.
okay.
Can I just kick in there, you know, as someone who's grown up here, that's a very tidal mud flat. And 100 metres is probably how far the tide goes back at a minimum, you know, I think the tidal movement is probably over 100 metres there.
Although currently, your wastewater overflow that goes a lot more frequent, so it's right on the beach there.
Is it?
It's concrete pipes sticking out.
No wonder we've got bloody, blue.
So, yeah, compared to the status quo, trying to get that out past the low tide line and get it where it's going to start moving out next tide.
More argument for it to go straight down the harbour.
Sorry, Lynn, can we just ask for a clarification on that?
Not from the lounge, only from the table.
Clarification, because I didn't understand what Kylie said about currently wastewater treatment overflow being there at that point.
Well, look, to answer the question, there's you'll find out on the beach, down the road here, just after the bend, there's a concrete pipe sticking out in the sand, and you can see that low tide and high tide, it's beneath the waves.
It's just down by the bowling club.
Just on the beach. There.
I think
Concrete pipe, just play with it.
Doesn't work anyway.
From all that.
All right.
Sorry, the current
Yeah.
the current network overflow, the end of the town, is the concrete pipe that comes out on the beach, just after the corner of Rue Britain, by the Bowls Club, you know, 50 metres away, something. Currently, that one just stops in the sand there.
It's jammed up in the sand here.
Yeah, it jams up, and then you run the risk of it backing up and coming out.
So,
Traps.
So this is, it is a case scenario, so there's 100, 200, 300, obviously 300 is more expensive, okay?
Okay.
And it's largely driven by the environmental and the public health assessment that says it's got to be.
Right, that's gonna ask that, how do we decide, yeah.
So it's in two parts to it. One is the environmental impact and the other is the public health. And it's sort of got to work with both.
Right, we do get to keep going, I know I've told people very long, so if you just keep moving along, that would be lovely, thank you.
that was us.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
guess one, you go.
Sorry, I do have a question, and it is related, but it's unrelated. And I know my learned friend he's got some other questions too, just having conversations earlier. Some years ago, probably 4 years ago, you came to us with a picture of a teardrop of land down between Church Road and the main road, saying that this land is no longer required. Can you find a use for it? And I put hot pools in there. And but you saying that land is still waiting to be assessed for use now, or what?
Yeah, look, the principle's always been one day from when we get a consent to crack on, then we'll do the construction and that entire site's handy to lay down, just use. But at the end of construction, the pipes from the ground, the plant is built, everything below the hay pads somewhat circles the requirements. So there's an opportunity for that to move to another part of council, parks or facilities, whatever. So, yeah, down the road, there's certainly an opportunity to divest that land from Three Waters, separate off the treatment side and the rest of the teardrops, perhaps.
Very good hot pools.
Awesome.
Yeah, 2 questions. Thank you, Connie. The location of this outfall, harbour outfall, 500, 200 or 300. That area is quite heavily being used by recreational and boaties and other purposes as well, visitors to town. Why that particular location? Why not on the other side of the harbour, have run pipe across so that there is less on the left-hand side. You know, interaction with human air with the limited cost.
So I assume you're thinking somewhere past Green Bay.
Yeah, so just go around, yeah, on the left-hand side, yes, over there,
Some of
yeah.
them like red point.
Oh, sorry, going out round,
Yeah.
the north side. Just straight construction, build in a pipe. We're trying to get a pipe down the hillside from, Humphrey Ralston's farms. That building down that hillside will be a nightmare. The digger will fall off, so just bringing the pipe into the harbour on that side would be pretty dicey. You want somewhere semi-flat to try and get it out to sea.
Okay, so do you think that coming from above, it would push it a little bit further out, you don't have to extend the pipe that much,
Yeah, look,
the pole?
so there's something for us to consider and perhaps ask Humphrey, we'd be allowed to build across this land, but certainly construction wise, that will be a lot harder and it would not necessarily be easy.
And secondly, since the commission has asked to put a new application for the harbour outfall, would the community be consulted on that? Or is it just council application?
So still seeking advice on that one. Normally for infrequent overflows or discharges, council doesn't consult on those because there's not much in the way of options. So operational reality that every pump station or outfall is at the low point of the network and you either let it go on the land or you can build a path to try and get it out into the water and flush it away. So the same as our other 100-odd pump stations around the city where we've got constructed outfalls on every one of those.
In this instance, as you can see in that picture, the township, for the visitors, the residents, they will be severely impacted by that.
Yep.
As opposed to another, plant like Bromley, you have an harbour outfall or sea outfall. You may not need consent there, like public will. This is significantly impacting the public health. I understand the technical aspects of it,
So are we talking the treated or the untreated?
untreated, that you,
Again, the untreated discharge happens at every pump station built in the country. Because the pump station's built at the low point of the network. So the designer of the pump station has a choice. You can engineer a pipe, the ocean, we're going to have to overflow because everything's powers off, pumps broke, the system's gone. It's a matter of public health, how do we best discharge that? The alternative is we don't build that, and then it will come out first private track next door to the pump station. And then I'm in a position I have to explain to that homeowners why they've got 2,000 or 20,000 cubic metres a day of raw sewage flooding through their house. So as a basic design principle, every pump station at the low point will have a discharge path to the environment that minimises the public health risk. And that's not a decision-making process because there's no alternative. It's either that or don't have reticulated sewage. So no, there isn't a public consultation pathway for raw overflows. You can certainly debate the frequency and the design of the system, but the actual location point, it's pretty hard to sort of debate that because it's got to be at the low point of the network and it's got to be a best path to get it out into the ocean harbour for public health. So yeah, but what would happen in an earthquake? Where are we going to send it? That's the kind of thinking for sure. Yeah. Treated discharges and other things, discharge location. Yeah, have those discussions. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, just actually, sorry, just picking up on the comment about every pump station in the country. So just so I get a feel for that, like, so with all the work that got done in Littleton Harbour recently, so there are I mean, that's been running for, it's been done for a while, so what are we, how's it performing? And where does it,
We decided it's like, right, so
of course, you made?
you must know this, Governor's Bay has pretty much everything gravitates to the Governor's Bay station. I don't think there's an intermediate one. So anything goes wrong on the Governor's Bay side, it will overflow near the wooden wharf at the bottom of the bay there, so near the existing pump station treatment plant, which is 100 metres up the track. So we'll come out there and then go across.
By the jetty.
Near the jetty, probably 100 metres round, thereabouts.
Right.
But
I remember that when I jumped in.
so don't jump into the motorfacts to go explore it after heavy rain with the signs up. Diamond Harbour has got quite a few stations like a daisy chain where it goes one to the next to the next. So it's probably a half dozen in Diamond Harbour, thereabouts. One end of the town to the other. If any of those get a blockage, breakdown, whatever, it comes out of that port. So there's multiple paths in Diamond Harbour it can come out.
Can I ask you, oh, sorry.
And same again on Littleton, you've got half a dozen pump stations in the Littleton area. Most of them will gravitate to the old treatment site at the port. A few of them have got to kind of come around the houses to get there. If those go, then they overflow via a pipe that comes out under the wharf.
In the inner harbour, was it? Or
In the outer, in the main berth area.
Right.
Yeah, where the big cranes are, yep, somewhere around there. If they all come together, they then get pumped away to All Place in Christchurch. See from after that.
Yep.
All Place, if that goes, that overflows to the history, I think. I think that goes stormwater by history. After that, next stop is treatment plant. So every one of those stations has an engineered overflow. So when it blocks, breaks down, giant earthquake, they go through the pot, whatever, that's where it comes out.
So can I ask the board, I mean, with the overflow notice that's open? From my.
I'm not, is anybody else?
No.
I'm not.
So maybe we need to-
Okay, I'll really see them on here. Oh, yes, yeah. Okay, right,
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you for explaining all of that. It's sort of something we need to improve on, obviously, but we have what we have, the systems that we have. You know, I'd love to have that perfect solution of what to do with our waste. I think we all would.
That's no.
There is none at the moment, and hopefully somebody is working on it somewhere right now.
The last one for the day is Tim's keen at any point, if you do want to come up for a visit to the planted outside. Out in the sun.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Put your hands up,
For work through staff, that would be great.
let us know and
Thank you.
in July, it's, it might be a bit cold.
July.
not when it's raining.
It might be spring.
And any final burning questions?
I do have one, so just on the plantings, so. I can't say this. I guess at the moment, you mentioned having point, right, so there's plantings going on there, at the moment there's earthworks going on.
There's some fencing where it's.
Yeah.
It's not earthwork.
Oh, sorry, yeah, so there's some, it's kind of, yeah. Stuff in there. So I guess probably my concern is around the optics of that, right, because we're still in a process. And that implies you understand what I'm saying, right? So that is a bit of a concern. I know that there's a strong community concern. Anything. And yeah, so just your comments on that.
Yeah, so I guess two parts to where the money's going. The first is the tree planting. We put the application for irrigation in May 2023 and expected to get some sort of resolution by now. See, we're still going. So we did seed gather in 2023 and planted out seedlings, figuring something would happen, and if it got knocked on the head, 2024, well, we can rehome those seedlings pretty easily. Here we are in 2025, clock's still ticking. Those seedlings are eliminated to get in the ground, so we just can't. We're going to struggle to find a home for that many seedlings that can be planted. So, well, why not get the trees planted? At worst, we planted the forest with no other benefit. So the team considered that a low risk, and yep, we are going to be out on a limb on that one. The other stuff around fencing, when Three Quarters bought the farm, it hadn't been farmed and managed particularly well in the preceding years. A lot of the fences were shot. So just as a matter of being good custodians of the land, we got to fix boundary fences, we've got to repair access and keep it as a viable farm. So both sites are under grazing lease, we get money back to those leases, but at the same time, we've got to maintain boundary fences and the infrastructure on the farm. So even if we sell the whole lot and it's a dead duck sort of thing, yeah, we've got a farm in a good state that we can get good corn for, as opposed to the boundaries that are fencing's collapsing, the weeds are out of control. So it's that custodianship we've still got to do that. And yeah, look, I'm hoping to get a resolution one way or another by now. So it is a cost to the project. Appreciate your concern. Yes, not straightforward.
That's all, I understand it, it's okay.
So no, I appreciate it.
It's me.
We've kicked you about double the time that you're weekly here, so I think really appreciate your time and answering all of our questions. So that's been fantastic, really appreciate it. And being more educated and understanding of the issue than even before. So thank you. Yes. Yes. Then we're going to finish with the gutter here. We'll just get it up on the screen. Yeah, one, yep. From here, and here. Okay.